Peace, YouTube. Hello. Let's see. Peace, YouTube. This is FleurBrun coming to you today with a new topic of discussion. Hey. Hello, everyone. Peace, peace, peace. I want to see. I can't. My comments are blocked again. What the heck is going on? Why are my comments blocked? Chat viewing. Okay. Let's see if it'll happen. I think it's working. Yay, it's working. Peace, YouTube. Hey, Susu. Peace to the east, west, north, and south. This is FleurBrun coming to you today. Bliss up. Hey, everybody. Stopped everything. Hey, hey, hey. Paraguay's in the house. What up, Paraguay? Argentina. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. Is it buenas tardes? Buenas tardes? I think it's evening. Buenas noches. Hello, hello. I'm sitting outside getting some sunshine. I'll wait until a few more people. Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va? Ça va très bien? Bonjour, my francophonic people. Bonjour. Bonsoir. I think evening for you guys because it's evening. And I say bonne noite. Bonne noite. Buenas noches. How do you say good evening in Japanese? Hey, Amina. Hey, Cheryl. Moscow's in the house. Check on in. Hey, Jado. You saw me on Black Magic. Hey, April. Okay, everybody. I'm just going to wait until a few more people check in. Put a like on the video if you're up for the shenanigans today. I'm very relaxed. I'm not going to make this video as mind-boggling as before. I know many people are celebrating Father's Day, so big up to all the daddies. Remember, I'm a daddy's girl, so big up to all the daddies in the house. If you are in love with your children, if you are the most phenomenal father, if you give your world to them, I am a representation of the future of your daughter. So, I'm a daddy's girl, and how I show up in the way I do. You should be grateful to my father, who really raised me with a lot of love, a lot of doting, a little spoiled. But, I represent a daddy's daughter. So big up to all the daddies who raise little girls like me to grow up to be women who love themselves. Big up to you. All right, y'all. Let's get into the shenanigans. Please put a like on this video if you're up for the shenanigans tonight. I'm not going to stay on too long because remember, I have Zoom. I'm getting sunshine. I'm getting all that fabulous sunshine. Okay. Come on in. All right. So we're going to get into the false flag. Y'all, let me just say this. To those who are, I hope my phone doesn't get really hot. Y'all, I'm only going to be on here because my phone, it won't turn me off. Hopefully my phone it might get hot because I'm outside getting sunshine. But let me just say this. Zoom tonight is on Patreon. So if you're coming in, we do our Sunday Zoom. We were supposed to watch a movie last time, but we went diving deep because the poll, we're at the 40% poll magnetic. We shifted to the 40% on the magnetic field. So we kind of were going deep diving with the pole shift and the Maverick theory. So we didn't get a chance to watch the movie. So if you're going to join us today on all the Zombies, I'll see you in a little bit. I'm going to enjoy it. I haven't eaten yet. I've just been enjoying all this amazing prana. So let's get into the conversation about the false flags, the false alien invasion, which is on and popping, y'all. So let me just say this. For those who have been part of the UFO community, which isn't many, okay? I think my archive speaks to how long I've been a party to this community. I've been a part of the community since I was 15, so it's a long, long time. And many of you've known me on YouTube since 2011. I want to say this: be careful, because the government, Willy Wonka, I'm saying the only that word one time, Willy Wonka has set the narrative online, and it has controlled opposition, and it has a lot of its plants online. And plants don't have to be people who know their plants. Generally, you can pretty much tell who's from the UFO community if they were part of it and spoke about aliens before 2020. You have a lot of people who've jumped on deck because it's prosperous for them. They're, you know, they're socially engineerable, so it's out down with the algorithm so that they don't feel funny talking about aliens. But for some of us who came from the alien conversation on YouTube, you know, it's been like walking on a plank for a long time. Hey, Rainbow Food Rocks. Everyone get Rainbow Food Rocks. I love her food. She's a mommy. She represents the family, and I support her nutritional endeavors and sharing things that would be helpful to children and people who have a lot of allergies or certain kind of, sensitivities. So big up to big up. So let's get in conversation. Like I said, the issue I have right now is that we have a lot of socially engineered channels that have only jumped on to the algorithm of talking about aliens. And like I said, you can verify someone with their archives. You know, I love social media for the reason that you can find out who is about this life if they were speaking about aliens before 2020 publicly. If they're talking about aliens now because it's popular, because it sounds good, they are socially engineerable, and they are being used by Willy Wonka as a plant to misinform you and keep you into the loop of misnomers and false flags that are coming out right now. Now, the fact of the matter is, we in the UFO community have always known that they were going to do a false flag alien invasion right before the pole shift. It's a fact. This has been set up. I've talked about it since 2011. I've talked about the fact that they were setting this up. And now that it is on all social media, all newscasters, everybody's mentioning it, all these channels that are plants, that are basically regurgitating information that they're getting in the algorithm, they are all being used to set up a false flag narrative of an alien invasion. If there was an alien invasion, we've been invaded. Our Willy Wonka system, all your Willy Wonka systems, they are the ones who were set up by all these so-called aliens, okay? And you have to be careful using, the word aliens is a very generic word. I just use it because many people are not used to this conversation, or you might be new to my channel. So I use that to give you an ideology of what is spoken about and what's talked about. And the fact of the matter is, hey, Melissa, the fact of the matter is, most of the beings that the Willy Wonka is in touch with are interdimensional parasites and vampires. I hope you're aware that we're living in the underworld and that we're living amongst the dead. That's why all of the things that's being propagandized and projected out into the Matrix hologram is all death culture. Dead presidents, dead language, utilizing death as a precursor for lifestyle choices, engaged in, am I on? Or did they stop? Holy crap, I think they stopped my feed. Did they stop it? Put a like on a video if I'm still on. My whole page is glitched, y'all. The whole page just stopped. Hold on. Oh, wow. It's about that life today? Holy smack. Okay. Oh, you're back. Okay. I was like, I didn't even get into conversation. Okay, so most of the people, thank you. I see all of you. I'm going to try to talk as fast as I can because I have to be careful and how I disseminate the information, only because I at least hopefully this video stay up. I've learned to save my videos, so I will be probably sharing some of my videos on another platform that I'll announce at a later time. So anyway, y'all, so a lot of people, oh, thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. Thank you for the donation. That's really sweet. Thank you. So most of the information that we're getting is being propagandaed and planted out there. There isn't any alien invasion. The government has, Willy Wonka has been utilizing and expressing information from nefarious vampiric type of inner terrestrials that have been hiding underneath the ground. They aren't aliens. They are basically just hybrids that have found a way to hack the system so that when the entire hologram gets reset with the so-called apocalypse or the plasma, like J Dreamers, say big ups to J Dreamers, the apocalyptic plasma event or the Phoenix event or the pole shift, whatever you call it, whenever that happens, they've been hiding underneath the ground, and then they come back all brand new, and they basically are the progenitors of all of the culture and technology that's basically reinstituted into the next cycle. So there isn't anything new. Is the screen? Okay, did the screen? Are you guys seeing? Oh gosh, goodness. Thank you, Divine. Oh, thank you. Is that Dilmache? I think that's Dilmache. Thank you, Divine Feminine Energy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I have to separate the conversation, because I have to explain to you, especially if you're new to this community, this is, this is our sector. So this has been my sector for a long time. And like I said, I've been alone with only very few people in the UFO community that are melanated. There's only been maybe 2 or 3 of us. Barry's been a part of it, myself, some of the other brown melanated people that were like spoofed on what's his name, on like TV shows, like talked about really negatively. That's why I say be careful getting information from these new plants. I will repeat this again. Any person who is talking about aliens or any reptilians or grays that has just started talking about in 2020 on a platform, they are most likely the part of the socially engineered plants that have only come here for the algorithm. Those are the same people that used to give me a side eye talking about I'm mentally ill, schizophrenic, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. And also, just to give you another FYI, be careful. And also Dr. Delbert Blair. Big up to Dr. Delbert Blair, who many of you know I was under his tutelage for many, many years. For nearly, oh gosh, time has flown, right? For nearly, what? Let me see. My daughter, oh my gosh, like 17 years or 18 years. Oh my, that's a long time, right? Time has flown. I've been on YouTube for about now 2011, 11, 12 years. And then Dr. W, wow. That's ooh, I just thought about it. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been a long time on here. And just know that this isn't a criticism or trying to give me more credence, but I'm just saying, in order for you to understand or overstand this conversation, you have to realize that a lot of people are being used as sheeple to push the agendas. And again, if they weren't speaking publicly about aliens, oh, thank you, Accidental Warrior. Why were you visited by Greys? Mama and Grandpa, why we be visited by Greys? Mama and Grandpa in World War II got visited by the aliens. Why is she being picked? Belle, she said, hold on. Hello to Babette in this. Oh, Babette. Okay. So let me speak to our C Star. Thank you for the donation, C Star. The Greys are not always the same. Not all Greys are the same. Most likely, if they got World War II, if they were visited by Greys, those are bioborgs. Most of the Greys that most people are being visited by are bioborgs. They aren't biologically organic beings. They are manufactured, and usually when they're set out, they are set out by other beings as almost like scouts. So they come down and do all the, they bring the people, they bring them to the laboratories, they bring them places, or they do samples on the earth to see they do a lot of testing and samples, like they'll test the trees, the animals. You'll see them do cattle, what you liken to be cattle mutilation, but it's just basically testing the fungi or the whatever they're trying to test chemicals on Earth. So if they were visited by Greys, most likely World War II is a while ago, so I don't want to necessarily say it was totally bioborgs, but most of the Greys that are visited here are non-organic. They are bioborgs because they can tolerate the parasites and the field, and they are easy to go through things without needing water, oxygen, and other things. Also, I also know if they have mouths, most likely they are governmentally created. It doesn't matter if you're in a country here, Germany, Russia, it doesn't matter. If the gray has a mouth and a nose, they are bioborgs. Thank you, and Michelle, thank you, my love. They are bioborgs. If the real actual grays, to my knowledge, have no mouths. So I'm able to differentiate if it is a gray that is organic, because if the gray is organic, it doesn't require any eating. It takes in energy in different ways. So there are different kinds of grays. Most likely they were being watched, and they might be, your grandparents might have been working for some private dark ops. Maybe grandma was in contact with other beings, and they sent the grays to study her auric patterns and field. It could be the case. So because that most likely, and I can't say definitively. Let me just say this, C-Star. I don't want to. I kind of just want to speak to her so she knows. And please refrain from thinking that it's always negative. It may be, but if they aren't harming you, testing you, sticking anal probes up your behind, then it most likely isn't something too negative. You know what I mean? Back in the days, contactees and abductees are something different. Abductees have a whole bunch of tests on them, and usually, if someone's being abducted, they are the non-organic beings on this planet that have been hybrid generationally, meaning that they have been created by governments themselves. They don't know that they're hybrids. Their mother was probably a hybrid, the father. And when I say hybrids, it's not alien hybrids. Basically, they're the incubator children, the mud-fled children, the orphan train generations of orphan train ancestor children. Those are the ones that were created by the Willy Wonkas. Those are the ones that usually uphold the agendas. Okay, so that's all I'll say about that. Okay. If you're having decent contact with any being, it's just, and it isn't nefarious, most likely it's a couple of different things. It could be that you're part of the governmental system, you were created, and you're considered to be property or cattle, which a lot of people are. Or there are beings outside the firmament that are watching and monitoring you, and you were injected in the system to do certain things on their behalf. It depends. Okay. So that being said, I'll continue to talk about what I was talking about. So like I said, there are a lot of people online, and I have to share this because I think most of you don't know the difference between an authentic contactee and or an abductee, because a lot of times their information is just as relative, okay? Or someone who is coming online who is following the algorithm of knowing that it's it's clickbait to talk about aliens now, or they've just been watching tons of videos and regurgitating other people's information. Let me state this before I talk about the agenda of false flags. There isn't any sort of high functioning, high vibrational, extraterrestrial, inner terrestrial, or inner earth being that would contact a drug addict. There isn't any high functioning, higher vibrational being that would contact an alcoholic. There isn't any high vibrational or high kinetic being that would come in contact with males that come from backgrounds of colonization, marginalization, and genocide. That being said, The majority of people heading all of these so-called alien disclosure, alien, or let me say this, there isn't any high vibrational, extraterrestrial, interterrestrial, or interdimensional that is contacting men that collect women's menses blood and use it for dark ops rituals. There isn't any high vibrational, interterrestrial, extraterrestrial that would contact anyone that 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 is harming children, has absolutely zero connection, who is prejudiced, who has biases towards different complexions, because once you're in contact with other beings, your prejudices dissipate. Why? Is because when you're in contact naturally and organically, you realize how human you really are. And it's hard to be prejudiced when you're seeing beings of other phenotypes, other types of genetic makeup. It would be very difficult for you to have prejudices. So I want to give you that as a base criteria to be able to discern who in fact is in contact or what they're in contact with. You know, I saw a young lady, no, she's not a young lady. I saw a woman talk about Dr. Delbert Blair and saying Dr. Delbert Blair would be proud of her. And she hasn't ever, she was one of those that came on board talking about aliens in 2020. And Dr. Delbert Blair wasn't even in her lexicon before she came online and was hustling for money. So be careful with people using names like Dr. Delbert Blair, because what they do is they go to platforms like mine and other contactees, and they basically, they're parasites. They'll take information that you give, knowing you're a smaller platform, and then they'll post it on theirs, not reference anything connected to you, and it'll make it seem legitimate. These are the issues with the alien agenda and those who will progenerate all of the false flags that are coming now that are public. Okay, so I put that out there because many of you don't know, and you're new to our stratosphere, to our sector. This is a sector that most people haven't come to. I've just become more popular with time because now we're getting into a more galactic stage. So my conversation with many of you years ago wouldn't have been as relative as it is today. And it isn't to throw shade, it's to draw illumination on the false flag sheeple and the plants that are all on social media. Everyone is an expert on reptilians and aliens right now. But if you talk to them before 2020, they wouldn't mention it because they didn't want to be considered to be judged, or they didn't even have contact until their pockets started getting lined a little nicer when they mention aliens now. Or if they say they meditate. And let me say this, there isn't any extraterrestrials that would come to anybody who's doing mushrooms, drugs, smoking weed every day, sipping on the yak every day, having nefarious sex, leaving children that they've seeded or given birth to without any sort of protection. That's what I'm saying. Most of the higher fielded extraterrestrials would only contact the higher fielded beings on this planet. And 90% of the beings that they would contact, if they're coming here, would be female. Because females represent a higher minded being that are doing less nefarious things on the earth. They aren't ruling, they aren't creating, they aren't colonizing other countries. They aren't progenerating all kinds of kill shots and killing off mass groups of people. You have a man who was just having a whole conference on exopolitics, who I know is asking women for menses blood. This is somebody that you're saying and believing would have contact with higher extraterrestrials. Okay. So I'm just saying. So I just put that out there because you can verify. Because a lot of the conferences that people have, extraterrestrial conferences, all of these people are alcoholics and drug addicts. All they do is smoke weed all day and do psychedelic mushrooms and so on. There isn't any higher being that would contact drug addicts or people who have to use anything in order to have any level of interface. It would only be someone who's healthy, who has a healthy consciousness. I'm talking about higher beings. So I'm just saying, you know, any higher being would come and contact females, and most likely a mother. I've been in contact since a child. I've been online since a little girl. So I give you my credentials, and all you have to do is not listen to me. Look at my roster. of what I've been speaking about over the years. When it wasn't popular to talk about aliens, when I was called a crazy person, when most people would veer away, we're even having the conversation. So I just say this because I want you to understand that the entire internet and social media is saturated with plants, governmental plants that are pushing the agenda because they're ignorant. A lot of them are just ignorant. They're not necessarily trying to be ignorant. They're just ignorant because they're socially engineerable. They're influenced easily. And let's get into the conversation with this false narrative, with this fake alien invasion that's happened in Las Vegas. And I want you to understand that anyone who comes from the UFO community would already know that that wasn't an alien. That was a being or beings that escaped an experimental lab that most likely your government created and let loose these cryptids that they have underground. First of all, if you see, that's how you know that a lot of these people are just easily influenced, because if you notice that the young man who was talking, he was reading from a script. He had already been contacted by Willy Wonka, the Dark Ops, the Men in Black, because he had to read from a script when he was after the fact. Now, the phone call I feel is legitimate that the young man in Las Vegas made. The phone call, it feels more organic, but also it wasn't an alien that most likely he saw. It was most likely something escaped from the laboratories of a governmental facility that he lived close near. First of all, for those who know, anything that's higher in intelligence, first of all, wouldn't show up naked on the planet. If it is naked, it's most likely escaped from a laboratory. So the first thing you see when you see the fake picture, that most people online, because they don't come from this sector and they're ignorant and they just basically want to get a click on their videos, they would have first noticed that any imagery that we saw, the entity was naked. It didn't have any clothing. That's also a hint that this most likely came from some sort of laboratory. Now, if it was a gray, it's overstandable because grays in itself are bioborgs. They don't require clothing. But any sort of so-called extraterrestrial wouldn't come without clothing. It would come clothed and with some sort of uniform or some sort of protective outfit on. Secondly, the young man's phone call was deviated from what he was reading off of the script after he made a video. He had to read a script. Anybody who's had contact with any beings wouldn't read it from a script. You would just come off the dome, because it's so fresh and new, you would just be saying it. Why would he have to read? That means that the Men in Black already got to him. I personally think that the young man did see something. I think that what he saw was one of the cryptids that I was talking you to get your UV lights for. They're letting loose these cryptids, and also all of these forest fires and these purposeful fires that are being set by your Willy Wonka to smoke out and kill off certain areas are also smoking out cryptids. You do know in the national parks that all of these beings that were living cohesively, whether they hunted human beings or not, that's why a lot of people are missing in national parks, because you have cryptids living in there. A lot of times when beings escape from laboratories, or Willy Wonka sets them loose in national parks as an experiment to watch the how they hunt, they will have them in national parks. The cryptids, all that smoking, all those plans, burns that they've been doing with acreage of lands and national parks, where do you think those cryptids are going to go? Where do you think they're going to run to? Because if that actual being that was outside of that home, which I could be or could not be, I can't verify. I looked at the being that's being shown. That looks like something that came out of a laboratory or came out of a forest somewhere. And I've already shared with you that there are so many cryptids that have been let loose, and they're attacking people under the false narrative of spirit attack. Big up to Diana, who shared this intel. A lot of the narrative now with the cryptics that are killing people, beheading people, eating people's dogs and animals and cattle, those are cryptics that have been let loose, whether it's by Willy Wonka in their laboratories purposefully, because remember they're trying to cull the society and scare them, or and build this false narrative of a false alien invasion, which is basically laboratory beings being let loose, or cryptids that are being burned out of forests to make it seem like there's aliens. All of these so-called these bear attacks that you're saying, I want you to look all over the Midwest. Look at all these bear attacks. Those aren't bear attacks, y'all. Those are cryptids that are killing people. They're building a narrative that it's bears because they're trying to cloak and hide it. That's why they made that whole show called Cocaine Bear. What was that movie about, y'all? Remember that movie Cocaine Bear that came out? That was code. That was code. Okay? Understand and understand that these interterrestrial, they're not interterrestrials, these inner earth parasitic vampiric dead beings have controlled the mindset, the consciousness of the collective for a long, long time. They know how easy it is to direct you to false information and let it go rogue on you. All of these cryptics are freed, y'all. That's what the lights were for. I didn't want to say it. I'm telling you now. They're let free. They set all these forest fires because they knew that these laboratory type of hybrid entities that they've created, most of them they've created. Some are actually beings that lived in the national forest because they did crash here, like the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. Those are like beings that came here that live solitary. They don't really mess with humans like that. They don't really kill humans. They kind of live isolated. Usually males live by themselves and not many females in a Bigfoot community, but those aren't hurting anyone. Thank you, Quasire Weaver. I appreciate it. So I wanted to just say to you, please refrain from thinking that Willy Wonka is going to tell you anything new. They've been prepping for this fake alien invasion for a long time. The fact that it's on national news lets you know it's fake. What I will share with you is that the beings that I know and I'm in contact, they are coming here. They are coming here. So your Willy Wonka is prepping your mind, culling your consciousness, trying to subjugate your mind to mind control so that when the others come, you will have such distrust and you will be at dis-ease and you will be fearful so that you won't be able to have any high vibrational, any high contact with these beings. And let me share this also. The beings that are coming look Afrocentric, for those who don't know the term, or brown, or melanated, like Negroid looking. The beings that are coming here, and they're coming in the droves. They are coming here. That's no cap. When your firmament, when all of the lights go off on the dome, on your electromagnetic false ceiling, we call the sky, that's when they're coming. And they aren't coming for y'all. They coming for your Willy Wonka. So your Willy Wonka wants to throw you under the bus and make you attack them or try to act hostile or dirty you and your children up so that they see you as unnatural. I was trying to share with you, and people get very offended, right? So I was trying to share with you the fact that if you're engaged in non-natural behavior, you're hurting children, you're hurting yourself, you are generating low vibrational behavior by listening to music, whether it's rock, whether it's heavy metal or low field hip hop, or if you're having sex and seeding children that you don't love, if you're hurting women by being nefarious and abusive, or you're hurting men and you're being low level and abusive, if you are engaged in sexual activity anally and otherwise that is considered to be unnatural and it's tainting your auric field, and you're mating with people that come from colonizing or if you're mating with people that have destroyed this planet and that are the colonizers of this planet, meaning that they are the seeds of those who hide underneath the ground generationally and come up on the surface, colonizing everywhere and destroying people's gene pools. You are going to have a consequence for it. They're going to see you as an enemy, because anyone who would be conscious wouldn't mate with demons. Why are there dead pigeons in the hedgehogs near 5G towers? Because 5G is a allegedly, right? 5G is the frequency machines that are being set all over are destroying the synapses of animals, especially animals who have very finite sensory, like, things that are sonic, like the birds, like sonic and echo animals, like birds, bats, fish. They're bothering them. Thank you, Zorro. Good work, Queen. How can I get a reading for you? I don't read. You can have a kiki with me. I don't read. I'm not a psychic. I just have been living in this sector for a long time, and I've gained a lot of wisdom with some amazing people that I've met over the years, and with the contact that I've had, and with coming with the mindset of being open and receptive to information. And like I said, let me put this out. I'm also sober. Any of my contact, I haven't ever had to be high. I haven't ever been high to be in contact with any beings. I haven't had to drink alcohol. I haven't had to snort up any coke. I haven't had to take any rappy, whatever the things that ayahuasca, mushrooms. I am organic. I haven't anything on my body that makes me inorganic. Most people ask me why I'm a contactee. It's because I'm organic heirloom, meaning that I haven't, my parents didn't mate with people that are harmful to the planet. And so I come from a gene pool of really sweet people. I speak about it all the time. I don't talk about Orishas, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, the demons or so on. My first greatest influences on who I am genetically are my parents, my mom and dad, and my grandmother and grandfather. So I'm just saying, when people say, why do you feel that you get contact? It's because I'm very clean. I'm an heirloom. I come from great, healthy people. I've been reared with a healthy set of standards. And it's crazy because I've been the most vilified because I'm not a drug addict, because I haven't promoted drug use to have any sort of interface. But also that's the reason why when I get contact, people know it's true because of the things that I haven't engaged in. I haven't engaged in ways. I haven't mated with people that are trying to harm me in my gene pool. I've given birth to children of higher formed beings and native indigenous genealogy. So I'm just saying, when you come from healthiness, the beings that are in contact are healthier. So that's why I say you got to be careful who's out here progenerating. Oh, it's Inkian and Leo. That's a concept. That's just some sort of name to throw on an energy. There isn't any such specific thing. Those beings haven't existed here for eons. There isn't that concept. There are beings, the beings that you're all interfacing and seeing doing all this nefarious things, they're Satanists, but they're basically Jesuits. These are the Jesuits that lived here. That's their actual name, Jesuits. They come in all forms. They've been hiding behind the ancient Cometians. They hide behind the ancient Sumerians. They hide behind the ancient Atlanteans. They basically been hiding themselves. Now they're hiding in the Orthodoxy Jewish community, the Zionists. So they hide themselves. They cloak themselves. They rename themselves all the time. These are the people that are generating false narratives of alien invasions. They are the aliens, but they're like a parasite underneath the ground, who know that the collective are limited cognitively, and they've been promoting so much drug use and GMO food and low-field sexual behavior and alcoholism and consciousness that's very deflective. That's why they're able to get away with doing it. Yes, your family, yes, who said your family's background does have to do with who contacts you. I don't know what narrative that comes from. Yes, you do. Chaotic death particles. I got contact because I was chaos and vibration. Notice I said the type of contact you get. You get contact, but I'm talking about by higher positive beings that would extract you out of here. There's a lot of beings that will contact you when you come from low field genetics. There's a lot of beings that'll contact you when you're chaotic and it's mostly demonic. And when I say demonic, that's a very archaic word. It means that they're low vibration. There's some sort of paradigm. They're parasites, vampiric types of incarnate kind of energies that are here that feed off of that loosh, that low field deluge. So yes, you have to come from higher beings to have higher contact. And yes, your background and how you were abused, and that's why they promote abuse to children. If that wasn't the case, why did they use abuse as a main formula in all of MK Ultra programs? See, this is the problem. People get so sensitive because maybe that's not something they come from. Not everybody's meant to be a contactee. It doesn't make you not special, but it means that you would only be in contact with what matches you. That's why they do all these abuses of children, because it lowers your vibration. It hurts it dirties your auric field. They wouldn't do it if it didn't matter. So if you come from parents that abused you, or you come from a background or your environment that abused you, it's dirty up your auric field. Why do you think there are many people who've worked on themselves for many years now, fasting, eating well, clearing themselves, doing ancestral work, clearing their ancestral, karma? They do that. There's a reason why they do that, because they know they have to clear themselves so that they don't have that chaotic, they don't, those holes that are connected to those energies of pain, marginalization, and abuse aren't funneling to the dark beings that are doing harmful things to them, generationally, and to their future ancestors. High vibration got nothing to do with behavior or morals. Absolutely, it does. Well, it depends on what you consider to be high vibration, chaotic. You could be right. I can't, you might be right about that. Because remember, the dark Kabbalists, when I say high, I should say high vibrational. As far as when I'm judging as high vibrational, I'm saying they aren't vampiric. Should I say it like that? High vibration as far as they aren't chaotic. There are high, obviously the dark Kabbalists are using high vibrational magic and spell work, and it is high in vibration and energy. Yes. So I do get what the high particle is saying. I gotta say that as well. To know that someone could be a Satanist or a Luciferian or a dark arts practitioner, they're able to garner high vibration to utilize that for chaotic or parasitic magic. They can use that. So And so I just say final healing, it's like a form of purity when you come from a healthy background. And listen, y'all, it isn't to judge you, because remember, even if you came from that background, you can basically remedy it by participating in service to other behavior, legitimacy, and also rearing children with love, compassion, and an infinite healing vibration. So even in itself, you may come from that, but how you remedy it and you exmay that energy is by loving your children, by giving love to others unconditionally. Like you give, and there isn't any expectation of you receiving to yourself. So I'm not saying that it can't be remedied. What I'm saying is that the type of beings, higher beings that are contacting people who are engaged in low vibrational behavior, or come from a trauma-based programming within their own biology, it's because they have that energy. So let's talk about the false flags that are coming here, okay? And like I said, everything is relative. There isn't any victims here. Many of you know me over the years. There isn't any victims here, meaning that you aren't a victim of your circumstances. You have created this. Even in your recycling, you created this type of biotechnology to come in and to experience things and to gain and garner higher forms of consciousness. So let me say that if you come in chaos right now, it's because you probably created it in a past life, or you witnessed it without interceding. So now you're here to engage or have a reflection of it on you, so that you gain some wisdom, compassion, and empathy, so that it raises your level of wisdom and consciousness and vibration. So you can come from chaos and literally express the highest forms of light. Okay? You can. So I want to say that because people are like, oh, what are you saying? There was abuse. And so, listen, I know there is, but you chose that. In my world, you chose to come in that form. And also colors and frequencies, you chose to come in certain ethnic groups to garner a certain frequency. So in order to know that if you come in a darker color, a complexion in this realm, you wanted to pull in more light codes. So someone who has more melanin pulls in more light codes because black and brown and dark colors, melanin, absorbs the most light. And the darker the person, the more light codes they have available to them. If you're very fair skin and light, you aren't garnering as many light codes because you're reflective. White reflects outward. And anybody who does rituals, you know this already. I'm kind of talking to the room. I don't know who's in here. If you're very light skinned, you reflect things out. That's why brown people experience also in this world more chaos because they're pulling in more light codes. And those dark Kabbalists know that, so they utilize as a way as a control group in order to throw out frequencies. That's why they have a lot of low elf waves inside of a lot of hoods, because they know that they're very absorbing of frequencies of light codes. So it's easier to do that to them. If you're very fair skinned, you reflect. That's why when you go to rituals, you'll see that if they're trying to make sure things aren't piggybacking off of them or absorbing anything, they all wear white. If they want to absorb power and they want to bring it in, they'll wear black. So, for some of you who are not ritualistic, that wasn't something that you know. So when people say colors don't matter, you're being deflective. That's your automatic response for being deflective of people who have the ability to absorb all light codes. Okay? You've been taught to do that. That's why only lunars say that and brown people don't say that. That's a lunar response. Oh, I don't see colors. You were taught to do that. You were socially engineered to do that. And when you use that, I also know what kind of consciousness and what kind of generational ancestor you come from. Because anyone who uses that usually comes from colonistic type of ancestry. It's because it's in their codes, in their biological codes. Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you, Love Moves. I love that name. Okay. So just saying color does matter because a color has frequencies. So but listen, y'all, I'm not saying brown people are all positive, because there's brown people walking around absorbing all kinds of chaotic thing and expressing it because they are just chaotic. So because Dr. Delbert Blair always taught us that melanation was a passport to the universal consciousness and a passport outside of the dome, because you're able to absorb all of the light codes. But it doesn't mean because you have melanin, you have access, because you also have to garner higher consciousness, a high level of frequency. You have to have a higher self-awareness. So even if you have a lot of melanin, we look at it out here. You listen, Tatiana's walking around, dropping it like it's hot, having sex with everything under the sun, showing their yoni to everybody out in the stratosphere, basically, displaying lack of self-love, wearing, snuffleupagus eyelashes, a lot of things that are artificial, because you have to have self-love. If you know that you chose this avatar, however perfect you perceive it, that's the judgment. If you chose this avatar, you already understand that you chose it because it has certain benefits, and it has certain things that you can utilize. Everybody who chose their avatar chose it. And I want to give an example, like the video games. Do you ever watch what's that show? Jumanji? Remember the modern day Jumanji, y'all? You know the modern day Jumanji? So Jumanji, remember they jump into the game? I like this because it talks about the NPCs. And remember Kevin Hart came into, like, he was a lunar woman in the outside the game, and he came in as a brown scientist, a zoologist, right? And what was his allergy? He was allergic to cake, and every time he ate cake, he blew up. So remember, like, they put above their heads their benefits. Like, he was able to decipher all the animals. He was able to do all these things. Those were his benefits. Like any animal, he could speak about it. He had a lot of knowledge of that. But his one weakness was cake. And if he ate cake, he just blew up. You got to watch it if you don't get a chance to watch it. That's what I'm saying. You chose this avatar. This is an artificial. If you're here, you already understand and understand. This is an artificial construct. We're living in a simulation, and you've chosen the physicality that you have. So there isn't any victims here. And anyone who thinks that if you're melanated, you are a deficit, you absolutely are incorrect. If you came in with a lot of melanin, it means, because people are talking about the whole thing with what is it? With what is it called? Getting oh gosh, what is it? Getting what is the money coming in? Can someone tell me what that means? Getting not retro. What is it called? Oh my god. I feel so off today. What is it? Getting not getting jiggy with it. You know when you get money back? Reparations, okay. So I have to say this to y'all. If you are melanated, your melanin is your reparations. Overstand again. Don't let anyone coin that. I coined that. That's what I made. If you have melanation, a high amount of melanation, that is your reparations. Your reparations is your melanin because you have the ability to leave here. The more melanin you have, it is a passport out of the firmament. Okay? So that is your that's why no one's giving you reparations here, because they overstand. The dark Kabbalists that hide underneath the ground, you know, the ones who hide and do everything with a hidden hand, they aren't able to leave, but you can. So if you came in incarnation, you would have to qualify for melanin. That's a qualification. So someone who comes in, your melanin is your reparations because you can leave. Now, I didn't say you're going to leave, and I didn't say you have all the other things you need to leave, but it's a form of reparations, meaning that you came in with all of the ability to take in all light codes. Whether you take in the light codes that you should, whether you know your light codes, whether you've made your technology into the maximum capacity of taking in all light codes, then by all means, that's on you. But you have the ability with your melanin to take in all spectrums of light. If you are spending that on garbage and sneakers and smoking weed and drinking and dropping it like it's hot, having anal sex, that's on you. But that is your reparations. That's why no one's going to give you reparations, because they overstand that you are leaving. That's why they're kidnapping all of these melanated women and melanated children and using their organs for melanin on the market, because they're trying to inject themselves for the very thing that you take advantage of and that you haven't found value in. If my technology allows me to take in all life sources and codes and I'm misusing it, or I'm eating garbage, or I'm taking in low frequency conversation and interface, that's on me. That's not on them. That's why they're not going to give you that, because they don't want you to have the fiat, the dead presidents to be able to, because they already know you can leave. Dorothy said at the end, she was like, "You, what did Glenda said? You always had the ability to leave. That's you. So don't get mad at Lunars for not accepting you for what you should accept you for. We always blaming Lunars for the deficit of brown people, but they get it. That's why their governments are not going to pay you reparations, because you're melanin qualified. The fact that you came melanated, you would have had to been qualified to come with that complexion, because that's a vibrational thing. So just know that. So please stop blaming, this guy said the whitey did it. No, he didn't. He doesn't even have the light codes to do it. You gave him that privilege. You gave him that power. That's why that last scene in that movie with Cosmic, what is it called? Cosmic Slop, which is not it. It's from Outer Limits. That's why they won't show you that last scene. When brown people were all taken off the planet, the whole planet was blown up. They need you. Remember the army scene? It was like, we want you. Uncle Sam was like, we want you. Yeah, you got to do that. If you're doing harmful things to yourself and so on, do not blame Lunars for that. That has only to do with us. If you got melanin right now, you have the passport to leave. That is one of the criteria. That's why brown people on this planet are most misused and abused, because they have the ability to leave. That's purposefully done. It's like a whole bunch of haters knowing that, you bastards, you're about to leave. You know what I mean? You can leave. But that's why you have to have the consciousness to be able to access the passport. I could have a passport, but if I don't go to the border, if I don't create a life that makes me able to leave and use my passport, what's the point of having a passport?
So just stop blaming lunars or asking for reparations. Your melanin is your reparation. That's why they taking your melanin and pumping it all in their offspring, all underground, because they know when this apocalypse happens, they go underground. And if some of you aren't smart enough, they're going to take you and your family too. If you don't respect your melanin, who's going to respect it for you? It doesn't matter what they feel about you, it's how you feel about yourself. That's why we're in a hologram. You have to, your self-awareness is all that matters. How Becky or Brad feel about me has absolutely zero to do with me. That only has to do with them. How I feel about me is all that matters. My melanin is popping, and you notice I'm sitting out in the sun, and there isn't any. Gratefully, I hadn't had to wear any sunscreen on me because I'm taking in those magnetic data codes. I'm taking in all the light codes right now, being able to disseminate this information to you. I haven't taken a drug. I haven't drank alcohol. I'm not having anal sex. I haven't talked to anybody about anybody's children. I haven't colonized any countries. My father didn't kill any of your fathers. My father didn't kill any of your mothers. My father hasn't sit here and hurt any of your children. My mother was a beautiful, sweet woman still, who was an educator, who still is honored and portrayed as a wonderful woman to all people she came in contact with. She hasn't colonized any of your people. Her grandfather and her father didn't kill any of your people. I come from good stock. I'm an heirloom. I'm biologically healthy. And I come here speaking information because I take in light codes. Stop being a victim of your own lack of self-awareness. The aliens aren't coming from Willy Wonka. They're coming from you. You are the goddamn, excuse me, I'm sorry. I apologize. I get a little over. You are the aliens. Okay. And Lunas, I'm not talking bad about you. I'm speaking to melanated people because I feel like they need to hear this because they keep wanting to listen, if your people hurt me, I don't want jack from you. I want zero from anybody who colonize anything because you dirty and taint what you give to me. Anything I create myself. I needed a lunar. There wasn't a lunar man who paid for my house. There wasn't a lunar man who paid for my car. There wasn't a lunar woman or anything who has anything to do with me, deficit wise or great wise. I am the progenitor of my own destiny. You won't hear me blaming them for my downfall, but certainly I won't be mating with anyone who comes from colonizing people because I understand magic and I understand the power of biological technology. So if I'm allowing a man who comes from people who hate me to sleep with me, I'm also lowering my mechanics, my technology. That's why I don't really respect people who do that because I already know you're not really self-aware. When you can mate with people, and let me state this, it may not be the person could love you, but if he comes from a people that hate everything about you and have benefited from the subjugation and the marginalization and are constantly speaking that vitriol, then you take on the karma because that's a form of self-hatred. When I love myself, I mate with that which has a connection to me and has a respect to me and my technology overall. They respect that. So that's what I'm saying. So someone was like, people are writing saying, oh, should I leave my, no, listen, you make a choice. And this is what's beautiful about being here. Everything is your own choice that you've basically created and you living here and living in this firmament. But when you are harmful to others, when including yourself, by engaging with people who have a dark feeling about you. Like I heard this guy saying the other day, oh, natives should have, help and everybody else should have help and the children of a native should have help. But brown, just totally glaze over brown children that are subjugated to some forms of, marginalization. And I know what that being is. He's a colonizer. He comes from colonistic people. His mindset, and also he's most likely comes from mud flood people. Did I have lipstick on? Oh. Mud flood people. He comes from the incubator children. People who are incubator children, generations of them, they have a cap on their consciousness. So they aren't able to have compassion for other people, but they also have hatred towards people who they know have the capacity to take in more light codes. So those people you need to leave to the side. And it isn't for you to hurt them. It's for you to leave everybody to themselves. Zorro, they use to flame me in the middle of school for dark skin, but I had tough skin and I would just joke back. Listen, I think it's a flattery thing too, because I haven't seen anybody hated as the melanated woman on this planet. So to me, I must be popping because everybody wants to sit in the sun and have a tan. Everybody wants to have beautiful thick lips. Everybody wants to have really curly hair. Everyone wants big tatas like myself. So why am I mad? Why would I be mad to be admired and that be to be the progenitor of beauty, even if it's not overtly said? Why would it make me angry? I'm grateful. I'm thick too. Listen, if everybody went through starvation, guess what? I'ma still look okay. All right. So all I'm saying, stop hating yourself. And this is part of the alien invasion because you've already been invaded. Your communities have already invaded. Most of you are mating and doing things with people who hate you. That's a form of invasion. Instead of talking about the aliens outside in space that won't even come to you because you're still in self-loathing, why don't you talk about the alien invasion that's happening within your consciousness and work with that first? And that's coming from the light codes I'm getting from this magnificent sun right now, whether it's, sun simulator or not. Work on yourself. Right now, you're going to have to separate from those who hate you. And that's a big deal because when you realize that you're hanging out with people or you're mating with people who hate you because you hate yourself. When you love yourself, you only bring things around you that match that frequency. When you love yourself, you only allow things to come in your frame that are illuminating that which you feel within. So stop worrying about the alien invasion. That's all fake. That's a false flag. Anything that Willy Wonka's saying right now, doing all kinds of Agent Orange up in New York, doing all kinds of burning of control opposition, all these so-called military things going on outside. That's because of the lack of self-love that everybody has. That's being projected in the collective consciousness because people really don't like themselves. So basically, everyone's co-opting and co-creating a devastating world because that all has to do with how they feel about themselves. This is a hologram, y'all. The secret is it's not a secret when you love yourself. Self-love doesn't hate. I'm not mad at Becky because I'm upset with myself. I look great. I love who I am. I had a baby not too long ago and I'm still looking okay. So I love myself. And I have issues, and whenever I have issues with myself, I'm not looking at Becky saying, oh, wow, she has more privileges. I work on self. What does Becky have to do with my world? She has nothing to do with me. Me looking at her and being mad at her, or you, Becky, hating on Rashonda. Why are you talking about Rashonda? Why does it matter if she's hood and ghetto? What does that have to do with you? Do you? Thank you for the donation, love. Do you? Becky, why are you mad at Rashonda? Rashonda's doing her. If she's feeling good about herself and she being hood or whatnot, what does that have to do with you? Do you be in your, all this alien invasion only has to do with the way that it's rolling out. Willy Wonka is going to present a false narrative of an alien invasion because many of you don't realize you've already been invaded. And what's coming here isn't going to contact people who hate themselves. It is going to see you as a very virus or the cancer of this planet. And it isn't going to contact and feel good about people who come from demons and dark field beings who have been okay with other children dying, other people. Like I said, I know who's out here. I look at the UFO community. When you see that 80% of the women in Washington, D.C. and Maryland were melanated women and children kidnapped, where are the fathers of those children and where are the husbands of those women? Why aren't all these so-called intellists online speaking about that? Because they know, y'all. They know. They know who and what's going on a subliminal level. Whether they say it or not, that's something different. But they know. When they're not speaking about it, I also know what ancestry they came from, because a lack of empathy and consideration for others, whether you're in a feminine or not, when people lack compassion for others based on complexion or ethnicity or nationality, it also means that they most likely come from a cap consciousness of progenitors of colonization and genocide. Those people will be dealt with because what's coming is coming for them. Remember, Dolores Cannon told everybody, service to other people are really here to basically ascend and transcend this realm. When you're service to others, you take others, you can have compassion for others, and it isn't just animals, it's people. If you think I see a lunar child outside being hurt, I would ignore that. I would speak to it and I would advocate for that. The problem is that most people don't realize you're trying to understand the mindset of sociopaths and psychopaths that come from colonistic aliens that lived underneath the surface. They're not aliens, they're like interdimensional parasites that lived underneath the ground. And their consciousness is on the surface right now, but they got to go under the ground because this sun right here, these light codes, is popping and they aren't going to be able to absorb it. That's why you're seeing all this so-called Karens and so on glitching out because they can't take in the light codes. Now I know lunar chicks living in Australia. I got a couple friends living over, and they could take in the light codes because they've raised their consciousness, so they can take in the light codes, and that's why their skin is getting darker in hue because they're taking in the light codes, and they've raised their consciousness and their awareness, so it isn't bothering them. But for others, where the sun is bothering you, is because your light codes aren't being pulled in because you lack the capacity to have empathy and compassion for others. So that being said, is that you have to work that out karmically, or you're going to just go through another cycle coming back in. And then most likely when you accrue the consciousness, you'll be able to have be given the melanin passport to be able to access this firmament. Okay, so just know that this is the alien invasion is false. Willy Wonka, the look at your false holographic president. He got a mask on and he's falling all over the place. That's your alien. Okay, worrying about aliens coming. You think that the Willy Wonka is going to announce that there's going to be aliens coming? That is all for you. That's a show. Those of us who come from this sector, we know that the aliens have always been here and they're us. So whatever they're worried about is fearful because they want to project their fears on you. They want you to be fearful of what's coming in because what's coming in is coming for them. That's why they got to go underground. And that's why they're going to call everybody into these smart cities, these basic modern day genocidal concentration camps. So they got to create a whole world-run government that we're going against aliens. The aliens have been here. These are parasites. They want to feed. They want their food source. They know that what's coming is going to disallow them to have food anymore. So they want to get as many people underground as possible so that they still have loosh. Okay? Watch your children. And let me explain something. Let me talk to the brown women in here. Watch your babies. And tell this to other brown women because everybody is trying to take these babies and use them for melanin and take their organs. You know, this is, and for those people who don't know this, I'm sorry that I say it's so rude, but you should know this. If you had a conscious awareness and compassion for others, you would know that. If you aren't aware of that, it's because you are capped, because you most likely come from ancestors that have problems with others. So you've naturally have a genetic cap which disallows you from having compassion for others that look like the very people that your ancestors had issues with. Those children need to be watched and protected. Women of color, men of color, if you have children, nephews, if you see other children of color, please advocate because they're utilizing those children to try to prolong themselves and also try to hijack getting out of here when reset happens, okay? So watch the babies. Disallow people from having access to children and and some of you who are social workers, please advocate that brown children shouldn't go into households of anybody else because they're being used sexually and they're being used and harvested for their melanin. Okay. And that's not made up. That's not an artificial construct. That's actually a fact. So for all of you who are working on the part of melanated children, whether you're working as a social worker, an attorney, someone who works with children in school, I would ask that you super hyper advocate for children of color. If some of you can adopt children of color as a woman or man of color, and you're healthy and you have the ability, please take those children in your homes because they're being taken and used by the others as a harvesting mechanism so that they can live underground longer. Because once they go underground, lack of vitamin D, mental illness, and all kinds of consciousness, people are going to be eating each other underneath the grounds. Advocate for those children. Okay, all children should be advocated. Lunar children are always advocated for. I'm talking about brown children. Okay, advocate for them because they're taking them underground. All right, instead of saying Black Lives Matter, lives melanin matters. Melanin matters. Okay. And everybody has to have melanin to live here, but I'm talking to brown people. Protect those babies. They just made a law disallowing for native children to go in the arms of other people, colonizing people. I agree with that, but I think that needs to be extended to the native, indigenous, brown people living in this country. I think we have to advocate for those children, because if you disallow them, they'll go like those Christian evangelistic fake Satanists that went into Haiti, taking like 1,300 children under the guise of Christianity. Meanwhile, those children have disappeared, and chances are that's why the price of melanin on the black market is higher than the cost of gold. Okay? Watch those children. And I will say the alien invasion had already began. It already happened. It was already popping. The whatever they have going on in the sky is Project Bluebeam. There are beings right now. There are Project Bluebeams. They're using technology to make it very permissible for them to show a fake light show of aliens in the sky. That is all fake. Fake news. What does your orange president say? Fake news. Okay? That isn't real. They're gonna put that up. And that alien, that Las Vegas alien news story was partially fake. It wasn't an alien. It was most likely a cryptid that was in the backyard. And also that phone call was real, but the boy reading from a script afterwards, that was being scripted because he was being coached by Willie Wonka and his League of Doom. And y'all need to watch the cryptics, because anywhere you're having so-called bear attacks, big up to Diana, who shared this intel. We're going to discuss it tonight on Zoom. Anyone who's going to join us tonight on Zoom, we're going to be discussing this on Patreon and Zoom. We're going to talk about the fake bear attacks, which is being hidden because they're cryptic attacks. And some people want to know what cryptids are. Cryptids could be anything, could be insectoid. A lot of times they're like spider type of beings. Sometimes it could be shapeshifters. They look like they'll shapeshift and they'll look like deer, but meanwhile they're cryptids. Okay, so they can look so many different ways. The spider ones bother people. I remember I was in contact with the arachnid. I get it. Also, you have the one that looks almost like a wolf, like a wolf man kind of thing. That one's pretty fast. Then they have the ones that have like, all these arms. They have multiple different types of cryptids. Remember, your Willy Wonka had laboratories, y'all. Do you realize that? You do realize they were doing hybrid programs, mixing dogs with people, spiders with people, snakes with people. They were doing that. And let me speak to what's going on in the world. Apparently, they kidnapped or they caught a few mermaids. This is from the MERS. They said these are from the aquatic beings. Apparently some mermaids were taken by the government to probably stockpile like Noah's Ark underneath the ground, because we're going through reset, so they're trying to get as many of them. They caught a couple, so the animals underwater, the whales and the sharks, are set out to attack. Remember, that's their kingdom. They set them out to attack human beings, especially those who come from those type of people that they can perceive to be as their enemy. Okay, so all these attacks coming from orca, whales, the sharks, they're under the direction of the mermaids, the mer people, the mer serpentines underneath the water. They set them out to attack you bastards for going out there and capturing them. Okay, so because they had a few of their own captured, that's why they set out to attack all these bastards who go around harvesting other beings and feel like they have the right to take them into captivity so that they can reintroduce them and hybrid them and set them out for the next cycle. All right, did I give enough today? Let me put a little lip gloss. My lips are really dry. I'm sorry. Am I really aggressive? I have to work on my aggression sometimes. I am a triple Sag, and I shouldn't default to that anymore, because I should really start to really behave myself. I have a lot inside of me. Living in this holographic nightmare you call the Earth, which is an Earth. It's a hologram made to look like Earth. I just have all this pent up aggression. Sometimes I get it out in other ways, but I'm sorry. You got the Cthulhu out in the sky right now. Once the Cthulhu is out, we know we're at reset. Yeah, we got that going on. You know what I mean? It's going to be very interesting what happens. Willy Wonka is really a loser. They're losers. You know that, right? They have lack of intelligence. they only use like reverse engineered technology that they've stolen from other beings that come from other firmaments that come here accidentally. They've been reverse engineering. So all those so-called UFOs in the sky, y'all, that's all governmental. You know that, right? That's Willy Wonka's reverse engineered. I know it looks good because they haven't told you that they had it, but all of that so-called technology you see in the sky, they've had that since the 40s, y'all. They just making it seem like it's new to y'all. It's they've had it. So that's all false. That's false flags. And then you got these clowns that are constantly talking as if these are real narratives. They are clowns because if you don't have the proper critical skills to know when a young man is being coached and he's reading off of a script, listen, if you see an alien in front of you, you wouldn't need to read off of any script. Have you ever seen anyone who's seen something? Would they need to read it? Okay. So you have channels that are basically just regurgitating false narratives because they're socially engineerable, and it makes for good YouTube. Okay. Again, if you want to verify who these people are, if they weren't talking about Dr. Delbert Blair before 2020, if they weren't talking about reptilians and aliens before 2020, most likely they are false flag plants that are being fed information so that they can generate that out to the sheeple who aren't aware that there isn't any aliens that would work with a governmental system. They wouldn't come here and work with Willy Wonka. Any of these UFO people in these huge communities like David Greer, Wilcock, Corey Good, what's the other? There's a few others. Who are the other ones? There's a few others. There isn't any high vibrational beings that would contact them. If they would, they wouldn't allow people at their conferences to smoke weed until they pass out. They wouldn't allow people to be so drunk before they speak to the public that paid really good money to speak to the people about their interface or what they know about aliens. The majority of people who go to the conferences are the contactees, the people who attend. The people hosting them are generally basically people that are either planted by the Willy Wonkas or they're just utilizing that venue to be able to procure fiat, more dead presidents. Okay. Okay. Anybody who's a contactee of higher beings isn't high. And they aren't doing first of all, the extraterrestrials that come outside the dome, they wouldn't mess with people who mess with drugs because they already know it causes funnels in their first eye. It causes like wormholes. They wouldn't mess with them because they're open to and receptive to other types of entities. Okay. I'm telling you, I met people and it's crazy because the people that are the most contacted by so-called entities, it's really weird, are very religious women. That's the crazy part about it. The women who say that they think they're in contact with Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost, those are the people getting contact. Those are the ones. It's weird though. It's really weird. You know why? Because they live very clean lives. So they're open. It's almost like they're open to. It's almost like because they're so pure, the entities see them as a clear, as a clean interface, like clean. It's weird, but unfortunately they're religious. Like they're suffering from Stockholm syndrome because you can hear it. Contact these, we know it, the language. They'll say, oh my God, I got the Holy Ghost came to me and I just felt it. And I saw the lights come into the sky and I saw like a green light come in my room. That's all contact. You know that, right? But they are unable to take it in because they're just capped consciously. They're capped socially. They're socially engineered with religion. And unfortunately, a lot of them are getting contact and they're unable to really discern because this planet, this hologram has purposefully geoengineered them and socially engineered them to perceive it as Jesus or Muhammad or even the devil. You know what I mean? It's crazy. I think they're interesting though. I do. I think it's interesting that they get a lot of contact. I hear it all the time. It's very, I look at it though, it's like, wow, that's kind of cool that I wonder sometimes if they ever really get it. Like I was like, do they really get it? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Yeah. Yeah, well, let me tell you, y'all, religion is needed for some things because I tell you for sure, if we didn't have any religion, y'all would be living like they do in China. China is the example of when people don't have a religious structure, what happens. China, in China, even though people say Buddhist, nah, it's not huge, but like when you look at the city and see how mind controllable and Andrew, almost like how the population is very like Borg like, that's because there isn't anything to pull in the and they eat everything. They eat rats, dogs, snakes in certain villages, babies, brown men's penises over from Africa. I mean, they eat everything. They eat things alive. They don't care if they cause pain to animals. Like, you ever see them ripping the skin off of cats when they're boiling? I mean, they lack compassion. That's because there isn't any religion. And religion, that's what I'm saying. Religion is like it's like the introduction into, it's like the base introduction into spirituality. So once you get to a certain tier, you kind of dissipate those belief systems because you go on your own. But when they haven't any, like they haven't any true limit to the things they do, and they lack compassion for others and animals. Anytime you see people hurt animals without compassion, like boiling crabs and hearing them scream, or killing pigs and hearing them scream, anybody who has, because even I've known hunters, and if they hunt, they do the kill quick. They aren't trying to make the animals suffer, and they you can see they feel bad. Like certain hunters, they feel really bad about it. Like I've seen even fishermen, like they'll catch a bass, and that you can see, and there's a level of compassion when you see the Chinese society. Like I'm going to markets, the things that they just allow the animals to suffocate there, they haven't any compassion. They don't even see them as life. And when you have that lack of compliance, I know they aren't ascending, because you would have to have conscious, and I'm not saying all Chinese people, because that's a big country. Remember, there's always going to be exceptions to any rule. You know what I mean? There's always going to be there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. But when you watch certain people that come from those, anywhere communism, so on, but then you see people in Russia. I met people from Russia who have really a lot of compassion. Like I've met some Russian people, and I'm talking about from Russia. Like they came from Russia, they lived there for most of their life. They came. I've met people from Russia, not a lot, but when I've met them, different male, female, young, old, they have compassion. So maybe it's not the communism that causes that. It could be some sort of genetic hybriding that breeds in a lack of awareness, and it's like a cap consciousness. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very interesting. Like even in India, India has a lot of melanated people, right? A lot of melanated people. But even my friends who are from, like, it depends on where, Bangladesh or wherever they're from, it's like consciousness isn't as it isn't as out there as it should be, you know? It isn't really it isn't really as prevalent as it should be. So that's all. All right, y'all. So I hope this was helpful. The alien invasion, let me go into that. Your Willy Wonka is, please put a like on the video if you like the shares that I gave today. Do you know that Willy Wonka is planning the false flags, all of these army trucks all over the place? They're building your anxiety. They know that most social media likes to go on a tangent talking about everything like that. Listen, when they're trying to be covert, we don't see anything. When they start showing it out loud where people can film it, then you know it's a false flag. Because one of the things that you have to understand is that Willy Wonka has hidden the fact that it's been in contact with nefarious interterrestrials, interdimensionals for a long time. They haven't showed that out publicly to you, and the people who've talked about it have been taken out. So why would you think that all of a sudden you're going to find out that all of these aliens are out here, or military trucks are out here? That's they trolling us. That's because they're trolling us. They are basically making it seem like that is something that is new. And let me explain something. Anytime you have intellists or people telling you they're getting information from high-ended governmental officials, you should actually question their intel. Because anytime you have a so-called high governmental official disclosing information that he signed an oath to, whether he agreed with it or not, and he's sharing that information with a whistleblower, that's all cap. Did I got it? I'm getting that. I'm getting a new slang word. That's all cap. That's all BS, y'all. They're all one and the same. That's why Wilcock is full of it. David Wilcock and all that. What's his name? Corey Good. Those are ops. Those are ops. Those are ops. Whether they overtly are knowing they're ops or whether they're subjugated under subconscious mind control and they're ops, those are ops. They give you information, truth. They do. Let me say this, that you won't get all lies from an op. An op is not meant to totally make them look like an op. They're going to give you mostly truth, and then they're going to throw in that snake. They're going to throw in that lead that is totally taking you off to another dimension. So all of these so-called whistleblowers, I just would question if they're actually working for Willy Wonka. And also, how do you talk to a governmental official and trust anything that he says to you? How do you know he's not an op telling you that he's telling you whistleblowing information? How do you know that he's not double dipping? It's crazy. You got to be mindful that everything on social media, you got to check people's archives. And I tell you all the time, don't listen to anything I say. I could be crazy. I've told you that for years. Check for yourself. See if what I share is legitimate. Look at my archive. The wonderful thing about YouTube, you could see my development over years. You could see it. I've been on for so long. Check the old videos. You can see, you got to look at people's resumes. Look at their resume. Okay? Are they always, like I said, the conferences, I've heard from people who go to conferences, the majority of people going to alien conferences are high and drunk. Do you think higher beings, how do you know it's aliens contacting them and not incarnate or physical beings that are cloaking themselves as aliens? They aren't clean and pure, so how would you know? You got to be able to, if you're going to be in this sector with us from the UFO and ET community, you've got to be a great investigator, and you have to use your critical thinking to perceive past what's being presented to you, because Willy Wonka has been presenting a whole bunch of BS with aliens that don't exist. They make it seem like aliens. How come the aliens don't have those antennas anymore? How come back in the days all the aliens had antennas? And you don't see it anymore. How come all the propaganda, remember all that propaganda back in the days, the aliens were green, they weren't gray. This is all social media, it's socially engineered information. They used to be green, they look like grays, but they were green and they had antennas. How come that's changed? Would they do a new revamp of aliens? Yeah, just go look at the 60s. What did you see? You saw little green men. Remember they said the little green men. How come they used to be little green and now they're gray? Check the archives, y'all. Check the archives. I've been here. I've been about this life for a long time. I've seen a lot, experienced a lot, and I've met a lot of people who are contactees and abductees. Okay? Your Willy Wonka is going to, if you see anything coming, y'all, I'm telling you, it isn't what you think. Anything coming in here is coming for them. I'm saying it again. Anything that is coming to this planet, this hologram coming in, and they are coming, is coming for them. They're projecting their fears into you so that you could take it on, so you could fight their enemy. Don't be so gullible. Be mindful, okay? So y'all put a like on the video. I'm going to end this video. I'm grateful it's decided to come up. Of course, they let me talk about this. And, you know, for those who are going to join us tonight, we're going to be tonight on, matter of fact, what time is it? We're going to be on, we're going to be on Patreon in a minute. I got to go get some my mock coffee. I got to go grab something to eat, y'all. So, you know, everyone start really just working on self. You know, the enemy, there isn't any enemy greater than yourself. So, you know, if you want changes in your life, it's a hologram, for God's sake. It's a simulation. Your thoughts are things. Dr. Deborah Blair taught me well, personally. Okay. So, you know, really take control of the narratives in your life. Are you loving yourself? Because you can't really love other people if you aren't loving yourself. Self-love is the number one reason why you will be able to access out of here, whether you have melanin or not. Because there's a lot of melanated people who don't make the cut. because they've been doing selfish things, leaving their children, talking reckless to women, men, talking reckless to men, using their yoni as a graveyard, basically treating their body as a garbage pit. I mean, and also being cruel to other people, including their children. Those, just because you have melanin doesn't mean you're gonna leave. But being service to others gains the frequency that allows for the possibility of an access outside of this realm. So all you have to do, whether you're lunar, brown, Asian, Arab, Jewish, Greek, African, native, all you have to do is love yourself and then generate that love to others. Service to others is absolutely one of the main keys for you leaving this piece. If you aren't able to do that, then enjoy the false alien invasion. Okay, so please put a like on the video. I'm gonna go. I gotta end up going to my Zoomies tonight. So I love you. I wish everybody well. I wish everybody a healthy false flag illumination. And remember, brown people, your melanin is your darn it, I keep forgetting the word because the word doesn't mean anything to me. Your melanin is your, what's the word again? Reparations. That's how much the word means to me. Your melanin is your reparations. And if you were really heightened awareness, you would already know that. Okay? I love you. Be well. And I'll see you tonight on Zoom. Peace.